G'day everyone. Gather round and listen closely to the story of Lilianne. Lilianne's story begins in the heart of the Australian countryside. Picture rolling hills, golden sunsets, and a small farmhouse filled with laughter. Lilianne lived there with her family. Days were spent exploring the fields, chasing butterflies and building cubby houses in the hayloft. But as we all know, life can change in an instant. Evenings on the farm were magical. The family would gather on the porch, sipping tea as the sun dipped below the horizon. Stories would be shared, dreams would be woven, and love would fill the air. But lately, a knot of worry had begun to form in her stomach. Her parents, usually so full of life, seemed burdened. Whispers of financial troubles reached Lilianne's ears, casting a pall over her carefree world. The weight of the world seemed to be pressing down on her parents' shoulders. Little did she know, fate had a cruel hand to play, and her life was about to change forever. The annual town fair was a day everyone looked forward to. For Lilianne and her siblings, it was a day of pure excitement. The aroma of freshly baked pies wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of children's laughter and the lively tunes from the carousel. Lilianne's eyes sparkled with delight as she rode the Ferris wheel with her brother and sister. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Her parents, who had promised to meet them by the cotton candy stand, were nowhere to be seen. Little did she know, tragedy had already struck, leaving an indelible mark on her young life. News spread through the fairground like wildfire. A hushed whisper, a gasp of horror, a collective intake of breath. A car accident, 2 fatalities. Lilianne's world crumbled around her. Her parents, her loving, caring parents, were gone. Life as she knew it was over. The days that followed were a blur of grief and confusion. Lilianne and her siblings were sent to live with their estranged uncle in a city far from their beloved farm. Gone were the open fields, the scent of hay, the familiar sounds of nature. Their uncle's house was cold and impersonal, devoid of the warmth and love that once filled their lives. Yet, amidst the overwhelming grief, a spark of determination began to flicker within Lilianne. She would honor her parents' memory. She would make them proud. Driven by this newfound purpose, Lilianne threw herself into her studies, her grief a constant companion, but also a driving force. What she didn't know was that another storm was brewing on the horizon. Years passed. The once carefree farm girl transformed into a driven young woman, her heart set on a singular goal, becoming a doctor. Books became her solace, the library her sanctuary. Each exam passed, each milestone reached, was a bittersweet victory. Her siblings, each coping with their loss in their own way, provided a fragile support system. But the shadow of their parents' absence loomed large, a constant ache in their hearts. Lilianne pressed on, fueled by a potent mix of grief, determination, and the hope of a brighter future. Little did she know, a dangerous storm was brewing, threatening to shatter her hard-won peace. News arrived on a cold, blustery day, delivered by a worn envelope with a familiar rural postmark. Lilianne's estranged uncle was in dire straits. His health was failing, his farm falling into disrepair. The letter, penned in a shaky hand, pleaded for help. Lilianne, ever compassionate, felt a familiar tug at her heartstrings. She couldn't turn her back on family, especially not when they were in need. Her siblings, wary of their uncle's motives, urged caution, a promise made with the best of intentions, but one that would have devastating consequences. True to her word, Lilianne reached out to her uncle, offering him a place in her small apartment in the city. Her uncle, initially hesitant, eventually agreed. He arrived, frail and weary, leaning heavily on a cane. Lilianne, her heart filled with a mix of pity and cautious optimism, welcomed him into their home, unaware that she was inviting a viper into their nest. Days turned into weeks, and an unsettling routine settled in. Lilianne, juggling her demanding studies with the responsibility of caring for her uncle, found herself constantly exhausted. He would reminisce about the farm, about their parents, planting seeds of doubt about the accident that had claimed their lives. Lilianne, already emotionally vulnerable, found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. Her uncle's words, laced with venom and disguised as concern, wormed their way into her subconscious, gnawing at her composure. She started experiencing vivid nightmares, the car crash replaying in her mind with terrifying clarity. Her parents' faces, once a source of comfort, now morphed into grotesque masks, their voices accusing, their presence suffocating. Her studies, once her sanctuary, became a burden. Her siblings, noticing the change in her, voiced their concerns. But Lilianne, caught in the web of her uncle's manipulation, brushed them off, her trust in them shaken, her perception of reality distorted. One evening, amidst the growing tension, Lilianne's uncle presented her with a gift, a beautiful, antique silver locket engraved with delicate floral patterns. He claimed it belonged to her mother, a cherished heirloom passed down through generations. Lilianne, touched by this unexpected gesture, accepted the gift with trembling hands. She secured the locket around her neck, unaware that she was sealing her fate. The locket, far from being a symbol of love, was a tool of manipulation. Her uncle, a master manipulator, knew how to exploit Lilianne's vulnerabilities, her deep-seated need for connection. As days turned into weeks, Lilianne's health began to deteriorate. Unbeknownst to Lilianne, the antique locket was lined with a thin layer of arsenic, a slow, insidious poison, undetectable to the untrained eye. Every day, as the locket rested against her skin, minute amounts of the toxin seeped into her system. Her once vibrant energy drained away, replaced by a persistent weakness that made even the simplest tasks seem impossible. Her uncle, feigning concern, would brew her special herbal teas, concoctions he claimed were ancient family remedies for fatigue. In reality, these brews were laced with small, carefully measured doses of a drug that mimicked the symptoms of arsenic poisoning. His plan was unfolding flawlessly, and Lilianne, trapped in a web of deceit and poison, grew weaker by the day. As Lilianne's condition worsened, her nightmares intensified. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, the feeling of her parents' presence suffocating her. But now, the whispers were different. They weren't comforting. They were accusatory. They spoke of betrayal, of a darkness that surrounded her, of a truth that was hidden in plain sight. Lilianne, her mind clouded by the poison and her uncle's manipulation, couldn't decipher the meaning behind these terrifying visions. He suggested that her parents, far from being the loving couple she remembered, harbored dark secrets, secrets that could destroy her. Lilianne's world, once filled with the promise of a bright future, had shrunk to the confines of her small apartment. The city outside, once a symbol of opportunity and hope, now felt like a menacing labyrinth, closing in on her, suffocating her. Her once sharp mind, her greatest asset, had become her tormentor. Fogged by the poison coursing through her veins, her thoughts were fragmented, her memories unreliable. Her siblings, their initial apprehension about their uncle now transformed into full-blown alarm, desperately tried to reach her. They saw the changes in her, the physical deterioration, the mental anguish, and recognized the sinister hand at play, but their pleas for reason fell on deaf ears. She was a prisoner in her own home, held captive by an invisible enemy, her own deteriorating mind, and her trust in the very person who was orchestrating her downfall. One afternoon, while sifting through a box of old family photographs, Lilianne stumbled upon a faded Polaroid. It showed her mother, her face radiant with love, holding a newborn Lilianne close. But something about the image struck a discordant note. Her mother wasn't wearing the silver locket. The locket her uncle claimed had been passed down through generations, the locket she now wore day and night, was conspicuously absent. A tiny seed of doubt, long buried under layers of fear and manipulation, began to sprout in Lilianne's mind. Driven by a desperate need for clarity, a flicker of her old determination rekindled, Lilianne began to pay closer attention. Armed with this newfound clarity, a surge of fear, but also a strange sense of liberation, coursed through Lilianne's veins. She had to act fast, had to escape the suffocating grasp of her uncle before it was too late. She reached out to her siblings, her voice trembling as she shared her suspicions. They listened patiently, their love for her overriding any doubts they might have harbored. They had seen the change in her, the slow poisoning of her body and mind, and recognized the urgency in her voice. Together, they devised a plan. They would feign ignorance, maintain a semblance of normalcy, all the while gathering evidence, documenting their uncle's every move, every suspicious phone call, every instance of his calculated cruelty. Little did they know, time was running out, and their desperate plea for help was about to unleash a storm of unimaginable proportions. Lilianne's health continued to decline, but her uncle's demeanor shifted. He became bolder, his mask of concern slipping with increasing frequency, revealing a chilling arrogance. He spoke openly about inheriting the family farm, about finally receiving what was rightfully his. He pressured Lilianne to sign documents, legal papers he claimed were necessary to manage her affairs as her health deteriorated. Weakened and disoriented, her judgment clouded by the poison and her uncle's manipulation, Lilianne complied, unaware that she was signing away her birthright. With each passing day, the uncle grew more confident, his true nature seeping through the cracks of his carefully constructed facade. He flaunted his newfound wealth, purchasing expensive clothes, dining at fancy restaurants, all the while Lilianne wasted away in their shared apartment. He seemed to revel in her decline, his words dripping with a venomous satisfaction that sent chills down her siblings' spines. They knew they had to act fast, to expose his treachery before it was too late for Lilianne. Driven by desperation and love for their sister, Lilianne's siblings contacted the police. They shared their suspicions, presented the evidence they had meticulously gathered. The locket, the suspicious phone calls, the forged documents. But their pleas for help were met with skepticism. The police, accustomed to dealing with tangible crimes, struggled to grasp the insidious nature of the uncle's actions. They saw a grieving family, a sick young woman, and a concerned relative. They saw a tragedy, not a crime. Lilianne's siblings, their hopes dashed against the wall of bureaucratic indifference, refused to give up. They reached out to journalists, to private investigators, to anyone who would listen. They knew in their hearts that their uncle was responsible for Lilianne's decline, and they were determined to expose him, to bring him to justice. Their relentless pursuit of the truth, their unwavering belief in their sister, eventually caught the attention of a seasoned journalist known for her tenacity and her willingness to tackle difficult cases. Intrigued by their story, she agreed to investigate, unaware that she was about to unravel a web of lies far more sinister than she could have imagined. The journalist, through meticulous investigation, uncovered the uncle's sinister plot. The locket, tested in a lab, revealed its deadly secret arsenic. The uncle's financial records exposed a trail of deceit, his ill-gotten gains built on Lilianne's stolen inheritance. Justice, though slow and arduous, eventually prevailed. The uncle was arrested, his crimes exposed to the light of day. But for Lilianne, the victory was bittersweet. The poison had taken its toll, her health irrevocably damaged. Lilianne's story. A chilling reminder that even the purest intentions can be twisted for malicious gain. A cautionary tale about the importance of discernment, of recognizing the wolves in sheep's clothing, of protecting ourselves and those we love from those who seek to exploit our kindness. Remember her story, share her story, and let it serve as a beacon, guiding us towards a world where compassion and vigilance walk hand in hand. For in a world where darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, it is our responsibility to be the light.